Oh, what's up, everybody? Brent here. Hope everybody's having an amazing Friday. It is Friday, March 6th. Bitcoin down off of the 70K, 72K low we were talking about, 72K high that we were talking about last week as a very important line in the sand. Obviously, went right above it with a nice 4 hour candle. But I told you the weekly candle close is the most important part at these crucial levels. As you can see here, the weekly candle, which does close in 2 days, is well below it now. We're going to go ahead and talk about whether this structure is going to give us a fresh low into the 50s. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff going on today, actually. Iran actually denied the US's peace report or peace talks and says, bring on the ground troops. So, interesting. Is this going to spark a bigger war, like a ground war that may bleed into other, a bigger World War III? We'll look at that. We'll review some stuff on that. As well as the job reports came out today. They came out as expected they came out at 4.3, and I think expected, let me see, expected was 4.3, and then I believe it came out at 4.4. Yeah, here it is. Benjamin Cowan is talking about it here. Unemployment rate, actual 4.4, estimated 4.3. We're going to talk about, 4.3 is actually a pretty significant unemployment number. Historically, when we kind of passed this 4% rule, or 4%, threshold, it usually a lot of times does lead into a recession. So we're going to review some stuff on that. We're gonna have a great USDC giveaway at the end of the stream for somebody who does comment on the original stream tweet randomly on there. So I'll go ahead and pick that probably in 30, 45 minutes or so. And then also we'll pick a winner from somebody who's actually super active in the chat. These streams, if you guys are just pulling up for the first time, first of all, welcome. My name is Bren. Been doing these streams about 18 months. But yeah, 18 months. Do these streams every Tuesdays and Fridays around this time at around 11:30, 12 PST. Last week had one of the best streams ever. Had a good friend of mine, or somebody who's becoming a good friend of mine, Poppy, the founder of Quirkies. He told us about his journey as a marketer, doing very successful in other things, as well as trader, and then building one of the biggest brands and Web3. So expect to have a lot more cool guests, founders, traders, all of that as well. But if you guys are pulling up, yeah, set it like I said, Tuesdays and Fridays. Talk about everything going on in the markets. Have cool guests on. Last year, we're able on the stream together to catch a lot of the biggest plays of the year. Pengu like an 8 or 9x, USDUC, same kind of thing, 8 or 9x. White whale was probably the biggest play of the year for us. 50x. What? Yeah, I think I talked about it on stream at 3 mil. It fell to I think 1 million, just under 1 mil, and then it went to 200 million in the next couple weeks after that. So, we've been able to learn together, catch some great plays together, and I know when the market does bounce back, we're gonna do even better things. So, shout out to everybody who's here. Make sure to like, comment, retweet, share, all that good stuff. Let me know in the chat one thing before we get started. Two things. One, where you're tuning in from the world, what country, region, city, whatever. And then two, if this is your first time in the stream or you're returning. But Gardner says, yo, kind and unstable regards from Poland. Shout out to you, Gardner. Is it still cold there, brother? What's good, Brown? How's your week been? Yeah, my week's been good, man. It's can't complain, can't complain. It's been a solid week. The Boss Bot, which we'll talk about. If you guys aren't following Boss Bot on Telegram, you guys are tripping. Let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. Hold on. Boss Bot on Telegram. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and share. Let's just go share Telegram. Not that one. Boss Bot on Telegram. Boss Bot News. Up to 11,000 subs here. I think I was at 4 earlier this week. If you guys aren't on Boss Bot on Telegram, make sure to check it out. We built this to make honestly instant updates on the Iran situation, a bunch of stuff in the markets. A lot of it is really crypto specific too, but as well as it does talk a lot about everything going on in Iran, Iraq, everywhere, Israel. Um, Instantly, the updates have been extremely quick, and so if you're not in there, make sure to check it out. Again, keep you updated on everything going on in the world. Um, and yeah, other than that, whoever asked that, my week has been good, man. We're gonna talk about Bitcoin though, where we're going from here. So, like I was telling you guys again, this structure here on Bitcoin, February 26th, uh, told you was very coiled up and very corrective and coiled up, and that very likely this kind of coil up here was going to lead to some type of bounce, probably to the 72K level. But like always, these multi-week highs are very important levels. If we close above those highs, it usually leads again to a bigger bounce, just like we've seen here in April and in these other corrections. You get these big consolidations, right? Like this, right? You get these big consolidations, and once you close back above like these consolidation highs, like we did here with a weekly candle close, usually you get a big bounce after that, and vice versa. Like you saw here in November, what happened? Bitcoin formed this big consolidation, briefly just barely broke above. But what happened after that? It failed to break, traded back into that range, and then made a new fresh low. So if you're trading perps or you're just looking at Bitcoin charts all the time, if you take anything from this lesson or this stream right here, is that consolidation highs and lows are very, very important points in the market. If you see a multi-week high like this fail to break, meaning it goes above it or it doesn't go above it at all, and it comes back down hard like it's doing here, that's when you know definitely to exit a long position, maybe short if that's what you're doing, or just to be cognizant that the market very likely is going to fall back down here. So when I saw this, I wasn't along on ETH at about, what is this? Let me move this. I think I was at 1950, 1960 something. Went up here. I saw it failed to break. Came down here at about 2000. I exited completely my short position. And then when we came down here, I'm sorry, long position. And then I placed a short here. So I'm short here on ETH at about 2050. Now, where does it go from here? Well, as you guys see here, one of two things is going to happen here. Either ETH and Bitcoin are going to, like you saw here, fail to break that high, the consolidation high, and form a new low. Break this 1,800 low, make a new one, maybe go into 15, 1,400, whatever it may be. Or it's going to do something like this, where um, it's just forming a bigger consolidation, right? Where instead of making a new low, we're just in a bigger consolidation here, and then we break that high. Okay. Um, just like I showed you on Bitcoin here, you know, we could then go break that high. What's going to determine that, guys, I think, is if in the next few days Bitcoin and ETH just continue to fall really impulsively, like you saw here, was just big red candles. I think it's going to break it. But instead, if it starts to slowly chop down, like I have depicted here, and it takes 4 or 5 days, that's very likely going to tell us that that's corrective and that this could be a bigger structure and then see upside. So ideally, if you're in a short position or you want to see it break this low, we want to see it happen in the next few days. And instead, if we start to chop down, who knows? We could be in a bigger corrective structure. So like I said, I'm in a short position, kind of playing this by year, continuing to accumulate spot Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol. Again, I think that's the number one thing to focus on. If you have dry powder right now, you have stables, you have USD, whatever, that's what I would focus on above all else, right? All this speculation on the short-term price action I like to do, while it's lucrative trading perps with it, it's not necessary. You don't need to be doing it. It's again, Bitcoin and ETH drive the entire market. So knowing what it's doing and whether it's looking like it's going to continue to fall or it's bottoming out, I think is beneficial to people trading anything in crypto, right? Um, but let me go to the chat real quick. What's up, ATK Mike? How you doing? Gardner says, surprisingly, spring is upon us. Nice. That's good to hear. Listening from Nigeria and following your TG for a minute. Thanks for being here, man. Mr. Empathetic. So on Bitcoin, the 60K retest is the most probable after losing 72. Yeah, so I think retesting 62K, whether very impulsive so far. Best case scenario, if you're in a short position or you want to see it break this low, is if it just continues to fall very quickly. But yes, I do think there's a good chance that 62, 63 does get hit here, whether it's just a final leg and we bounce and finally break 72, or if it breaks right through. Typically, like we're in this kind of bearish structure, I think, guys, um, where I think very likely we probably do continue what we did here and make a new low. But again, we have to see what we do as we approach this low here. If it starts to chop down slowly and does something like this, like a double bottom, another mini one, who knows? It could bounce here and then finally go to 72K. My bias is to the downside, but we will see over the next few days, right? Either way, I think the faster that Bitcoin and ETH make these new lows and continue to fall, especially when the stock market's involved, which we'll talk about here in a second. I think the quicker it happens, the quicker the bear market ends. So while this is annoying, maybe your net worth is going down if you hold a bunch of Bitcoin and ETH. I think this is a necessary and definitely not a bad thing in the long term to get these moves out of the way. Right, S&P 500 though, guys, very very important, and this is the reason why I do think this is the number one reason why I think crypto is going to very likely fall and make a new low here, and that's the S&P 500. We've been tracking it in the streams. I've been tracking it in the Telegram channel that the S&P 500, this crucial consolidation that it's forming from January 12th to March 5th. That's 3 months of consolidation. Like I tell you guys, consolidation is very often where you see big reversals. Um, as you guys can see here, December 24th, December of 24 to February of 25, which is what, 2 or 3 months of consolidation, failed to break. What did that produce? It produced the big April correction that we saw. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, the big April correction that we saw around the tariffs. Oops. And then what do we see here? Same kind of thing back in the December 21 correction. It corrected for 3 months, failed, it broke below the neckline of that low. And then what did the stock market do in the coming months? It fell over 20%. Now, do I think we're going to get a 20% drop here? Probably not. I think probably what Ben Cohen has been saying, and about a 10% drop, I think probably sounds more likely to me, a 5 to 10% drop in the stock market. But again, if you're holding a bunch of stocks, you're holding Tesla, Apple, what are these? Yeah, your net worth might go down over the next few months. But I think historically, when the Fed and the government start to come in and print money, which is what we ultimately want for risk assets, um, it's after the stock market and the economy takes a dip, right? That's when they start to print money and start to stimulate the economy, and asset prices start to usually go back up, is when you get some type of something like this, a bigger correction. So I think the setup there for the S&P, both um, is there both structurally on the chart wise, again breaking this very strong 3 month or 2 month correction, or consolidation, and then secondly, Um, I think there's a lot of fundamentals that will push it down. I don't know if you guys saw oil price. Oil prices is going crazy, uh, absolutely nuts. Another reason why they're probably going to stimulate. Um, I don't know if you guys saw this. Any of you guys, let me know in the chat if any of you guys live in the. Oops. Let me know if any of you guys in the chat live in the California area, or like the West Coast. Here, hold this. But today I saw this $8 a gallon here in LA. Oh, 781 today after this rise. But U.S. oil breaking out of this big kind of choppy corrective structure here that's been forming over the last year, and then also breaking this structure from October 2023. So oil prices making a new 3-year high almost. Absolutely insane. Probably another reason why we see stimulus and other things start to come in. But yeah, I mean, obviously, $3, and yeah, my producer just said it's $3 in Kentucky, but it's 8 in the U.S. I'm sorry, in California. A lot of that is because I don't know. There's probably oil things out there, right? Or something. But because I know in Texas, or maybe it's a law thing, because I know in Texas they maybe they don't tax the gas or whatever, and it's a lot cheaper. But yeah, U.S. oil absolutely going crazy. But again, S&P 500 guys, I think it's going to roll over, and we're going to see a bigger correction on the S&P. I'm actually short the US 500 on Hyperliquid. I tried that for the first time. Kind of haven't really shorted or longed really anything non crypto related, but you can short Tesla, you can short a bunch of different stocks or long on Hyperliquid. So I thought, I saw this consolidation coming, so I am short the S or the US 500 from I forgot what price, but yesterday before we came down or before we opened. I bought into that. But yeah, Bitcoin, ETH, Sol guys, very impulsive to the downside. I think there's a good shot because of the S&P 500, because of we have the catalyst from the Iran war, a lot of stuff coming on. I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin break this low at 63K and probably move into the 50s. At that point, we're probably going to get a bunch of FUD. There's probably people who are going to say we're going to enter a recession. Bitcoin's going to be down for 2 or 3 years. And during that time, historically, again, whether we come down 50, 40, 30, for all I know, this is always a good time again to add, I think, because again, 30, 40, 50 in a year or two from now, if it's back at all time highs or even at 100 again, I think these prices are a no brainer. So again, the quicker we get through these corrections, the better, I think. Tesla, yeah, all these stocks look like they want to come down. Sol, same kind of thing. Sol, if Sol breaks 78 here, I expect probably a pretty big drop back down to the wick, back down there here, probably into the 60s. So again, also really want to watch these lows at 78 because again, this is a perfect example of what it could do. As you guys can see, Sol topped out here in February 15th. It came down, but then what did it do? It broke that low, but came back again. Like it could definitely do something like that. So that's why you don't want to short like at this low. You kind of want to, be careful because it could always bounce and even if it comes back down eventually, could just wreck you if you're in a short at the wrong place. So yeah, I think Bitcoin ESOL probably very likely come down and break these lows, and we'll go from there. But as you guys know, very long term, I think I think Bitcoin probably bottoms out either this summer if we fall a lot faster and Bitcoin's in like the 40s or the 50s, low 50s in the next couple of weeks, or potentially if we do get a bounce at some point, we could probably see the low sometime maybe late this year, maybe September, October, something like that. But I'm prepared for anything. I'm going to continue to DCA. If the market were to bottom out today, China were to buy Bitcoin, whatever the hell it may be, my bags are packed. Obviously, I'd love the opportunity to buy more Bitcoin and ETH and Sol under 40 or under 60, 50, even 40. But yeah, you gotta prepare, but then also have some dry powder on the sidelines if as well. Vnox says, "Yo, Bren, what do you think about sailors saying they're willing to hold an 80% drawback?" I mean, yeah, that doesn't sound to some that might sound insane, and people think it's really irresponsible and all of that. But let's see. Sorry, I got a text. No, a lot of people think it's really irresponsible, right? I'll just go ahead and show you MicroStrategy um, over the years, right? Because let's see. I will say that this structure is pretty crazy here for MicroStrategy, and I'll tell you why. I obviously just don't really dabble in equities too much at all. But why, if I were to see this setup here, this is an extremely bearish setup when it was presenting. But as far as the future, as you can see, MicroStrategy has shit. Hold on. MicroStrategy has had a long history. People, don't really look at the chart. It had its big run Oh, let's even go even further back, right? MicroStrategy went crazy in 1999. There was some big controversy around the end of the dot com bubble with Saylor kind of cooking some kind of books or something with the numbers. And obviously, like most dot com stocks, it fell from $230 all the way down to 50 fucking cents. Right, that is a 99.5% drop. Obviously, was one of the few dot com companies that recovered and then just slowly chopped up until 2020 when the Bitcoin strategy started and it 10x'd in like a year. What happened then? They would have accumulated several billion dollars of Bitcoin at this point. And what happened? It went all the way down 90%. They did a 90% drawdown. At this point, FTX had failed. Nobody knew what the hell, the consensus was that Bitcoin was going to be in a long winter if it ever went back up. What happened? It recovered out of that. And now, yes, it's at a 75, 80% correction. But if you zoom out, and I recommend everybody looks at the bigger, like the higher time frame charts. They'll give you so much more clarity, help you eliminate so much of the noise. But if you look really zoomed out, and yes, I have the logarithmic chart on, right? You could turn off the log. It's really not, it's the same thing with this point. But you zoom out, you see that MicroStrategy's not only gone through this before, but it's still 10x off of its low in January 2023. So it's still up 10x in the last 3 years. It's still back above its 2020 all time high. Yes, it's not an ideal thing for a company to go down 80%, but I think what MicroStrategy is doing is just like this such a unique thing. And I think that's why when Bitcoin does go back up, which I think it's more obvious that it's the bull case is more obvious than ever. When Bitcoin does go back up, that's why MicroStrategy is going to be one of the biggest companies in the world. Uh, Michael, Michael Saylor, one of the richest men in the world, because of this risk. But it's a quote unquote risk. To answer your question, I don't think there's not a lot of leverage risk. Like if they go down to a certain price, that they're going to get liquidated. The risk in MicroStrategy is one thing. It's that their bonds that they owe, the money that they owe is going to expire, I think, in 2028, 2029. At that point, they'd have to pay back those loans if Bitcoin is lower than the collateral or lower than the MNAV, right? At that point, the people that would be at risk would be the MicroStrategy holders. The company would probably go under. So there's no liquidation risk. Pretty much you're betting with MicroStrategy that Bitcoin's going to be higher than it is now at 28, like 28, 29. So, which I do think that is going to happen. And yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much. Again, there's just so much FUD around Michael Saylor and strategy during these times, but I think they have the collateral set to the side where they can continue to pay dividends and all that. The biggest worry is if Bitcoin somehow goes into like a 5-year winter. At that point, they're probably in trouble. But how to feeling 72K? Mike says how to feeling 72K would hold. Def curious to see how long it sits in the 60s. Yeah, me too, man. But I think usually how these corrections end, I'll show you guys. I'm gonna retweet this. Let's see. But usually how these things go is you're going to get some type of consolidation before the correction ends, right, Mike? So if we sit in the 60s, are you saying how long do we sit in the 60s? Yeah, we'll see. I think if we do fall here, it's probably going to be pretty quickly. Because again, if we slowly chop down there, that could be an indication that we're going to form a bottom instead. But already impulsive, I would say maybe even over the weekend, if not into the new week, we probably are lower than we are now. So if you guys could, if you're just coming in here, we're just looking at the Bitcoin chart, Bitcoin East Sol, and how we did fail to break these major highs and are very likely going to attack this low at 1700. From there, we'll see if this is a kind of a bigger consolidation structure that leads to a bounce finally, or if we do break through 1760, then very likely it's going to lead to 1500, 1400, a much lower prices from here. I am short here from about, what was it, 2065. with a stop at break even. Today we did get the Iran, however you say it, denying the US's peace treaty or peace talks, whatever, saying bring on the ground troops. So obviously we could see that escalate, which could be a catalyst. But either way, what I'm looking at the charts, which again set up oftentimes before any of these news events come. The biggest important thing is that we did, as of now, fail to break this important multi-week 2100 low or high. And just as you see here, kind of very, very similar setup to what we got here in December, where as you can see, we kind of formed this consolidation. ETH failed to break 3,300, just like we did here, which led to a fresh new low. So if we're to break 1,700 here, I do think we're going to get the same outcome with, a low probably in the mid to low 1000s as a result. So we'll see what happens. If the escalates in Iran, we start to see the biggest thing too. The reason why I do think we get a bigger extended kind of bearish move here on the majors is because of the S&P 500. It is sitting below, it is finally broken below this crucial 3-month consolidation. And as I showed you guys earlier, every big reversal of the past few years on the S&P 500, I'm talking about the one in April, if you guys remember, the tariff correction, as you guys can see here, what happened? Consolidated 3 months, came back to retest that 3-month high, failed to break, and then it fell 25%, the S&P 500. What happened? Even bigger correction in 2021, 2022, 3 months consolidation from November to January of 2022. And then what did it do? It fell 25%. Now, are we going to get a 25% correction on the S&P 500? I don't think so. I think it's probably closer to a 10 or 15% correction. But like I said earlier, usually when the S&P or the Fed and the Fed comes in and starts printing money and starts stimulating the economy, it's after the stock market drops. It's after the bonds and the economy is affected, not crypto. So while this is not good, if most of your net worth is in crypto, it might not feel great, but this is very likely a necessary evil that we need to happen, or at least contributes to this bear market ending quicker, is if the S&P 500 or the stocks get a washout too. Again, I think it would set up for 27, the end of 26 or 27, to have risk assets move even higher. You see the stock market in the 7,000s, something like that. But again, you need, or S&P 500. But oftentimes, in order for that to happen, we need prices to get washed out. You need corrections. You need sentiment to get washed out for big whales and big buyers to come in, take positions, and drive the market higher. So that's what we see time and time again. As you can see here, a 10% drop would be about where I have here. This would be about 10% drop. So I'll leave this here on the screen. We'll come back here over the next few weeks and we'll see how accurate it is. And if we do get like a 10% correction or it's bigger or whatever. But yeah, I think we're going to continue to see downside on that. Bitcoin dominance is also failing. I think this is going to continue to chop. And yeah, I expect all these different coins to probably continue lower if the majors do. DXY kind of chopping around here. If we do see the S&P 500 reverse, I do think DXY, the dollar index, is probably going to climb and produce some type of bigger bounce if we do surpass 100. So I would not be surprised to see something like this on the DXY, guys, where it makes a bigger bounce, chop up, and then sometime later this year it tops out and then makes a move lower. This is probably where we'd see, crypto, the stocks, metals, everything start to rise again pretty heavily. But do not be surprised. And again, it doesn't have to go to 105. This is just it's just depicting a lower high here, very possibly somewhere in the 102, 103. Is if we're able to do that and then consolidate something like this, then I think we get the move lower below 100, which produces a big move up in the stock market and crypto and everything like that. So, what about gold? Sorry, I'm catching up on the chat right now, but what about gold taking the scenario the S&P is weak? It's a good question. I think S&P, or I think gold probably now, gold is in a very actually interesting setup. The fact that failed to break. It failed to break this high here at where's my gold chart? Let's see, XAU. Do I even have it up here? Let's see. Okay, here it is. So, this isn't even the one I had. But the fact, what do you guys see here? Just based on what I've been saying, right? We got to move down. You got to move up, right? We're chopping. What did we do? We retested. We retested this all time high. Failed to break it, and then what happened? Came down, right? The important distinction here again is we failed to break that all time high. Now, could it come back and do something like this and then finally go hit that high? It could. But oftentimes, if we're going to continue, if we're going to fall here, guys, this is very likely could be the sign of a higher time frame top. Again, variation on the theme. I'm showing you here in the S&P 500. I showed you on crypto or on Bitcoin a second ago. Whenever you get a move down, you retest this multi-week or multi-month high, and you fail to break that high with a big kind of red candle down. Oftentimes, that's the very strong confirmation that you're going to get a big reversal, and that's a way that you can catch big reversals in the market without having to guess what's happening, right? A lot of people will start selling here, start selling here, start shorting here, not waiting for the confirmation when in reality the confirmation's right here. It's you don't wait, you wait for a fail to break and then a move down. That's usually a very high probability setup. You put a stop loss above here because again, if it does rocket back up, it's a pretty reasonable stop loss. You're not losing too much. Instead of trying to short here, and trying to catch like a falling knife, the opposite direction, a rising knife, whatever. So we'll see what happens here. But yes, if the S&P 500 tops out here, who asked this? Mr. Empathetic. If the stock market crypto tops out here, I would not be surprised to see gold put in a bigger high into the end of the year with everything else. So you really, best case scenario, you want to see gold reverse hard here and break this high definitively. But I mean, dude, we've been sitting below this below this high for over a month now. I think this might just be the trigger where, you know, if I was shorting gold, I might put a nice little short position here with the stop, up here at 50, 52.90, 52.80, something like that. The breakout is imminent. Right here, bro. SF Bay Area. That's what's up, man. I've been seen $6 in the Bay. Yo, Brent, what do you think about the Iran war? I see the bottom. By the way, what's up, Rojam? Nice to see you, man. Cloudy Ledger says, yo, Brent, what you think about the Iran war? I see the market bottom by this month because the midterms are around the corner. If this drags and gas prices continue to go higher till summer, Trump is cooked. Midterms are over and Trump's agenda is over. Yeah, no, I hear you. While that's definitely true, I do think politicians do try to posture and do things in markets, try to get things done before the midterms that are good for markets, right? They try to, they do their best. But what I've been learning lately from Benjamin Cohen, he that usually midterm years are not great years in the market, right? Like if we go back 4 years ago, back in 2022, for the S&P 500, 2022, as you guys can see here, this time what happened? Bitcoin, the S&P 500 topped out and actually went into a 10% correction. If we go back to 2018, same thing. What do we see here? Well, I guess in 2018, I guess the beginning of the year we did go up, but we topped out at end of the year and dropped. Usually midterm years are not strong years for markets. So yeah, I don't know. Historically, if we continue to do what past years did, then midterm year might not be great. But I do agree with your premise. Obviously, Trump would like that to happen. But I don't know if it's really much in his power, right? I think the Iran war, market structure, what's going on with oil, the S&P 500 consolidating for 3 months and breaking down, what happened with 1010, with crypto. I think all of these things probably contribute, to something that might be out of Trump's power. Like there's not much politicians can do when, money printing, unemployment, all these things are in play. But I guess it's good for us so we can buy it lower. Yeah, it's always good if you have patience and dry powder. Rojam, what's up, brother? You imagine 50K is not the lowest? Hey man, it could go lower. It could go to 40. It could go to 30. It really trying to guess which price is going to happen, especially when we're kind of in no man's land right now, meaning there's not a lot of structure here. It's kind of a lot of open area. To where the fact that it could go down to 40, could stop at 30. Someone might say, oh, this structure at 54 is probably a good level, but it's really anyone's guess, man. You just got to have a long-term investor type mindset on Bitcoin and the good stuff. Bro, look at 2022, May to June. Tell me that's not exactly the same. Bitcoin, May to June 2022. Yeah, man. I agree. I put up this chart in the Boss Man Calls Telegram channel, which again, if you're not following that, make sure to check out the Boss Man Calls Telegram channel. Been building that with my good friend, business partner, Boss Man, from 300 subs to now 40,000 members all over the world. Um, you know, did a lot of great plays in there, a lot of great education, over the last few years when the market was pumping it. I mean, dude, plenty of 10, 20, 50 X's in there, do streams. I post pretty much everything that I've learned over the last several years in the markets in there. So definitely check that out. In there yesterday, I posted kind of that fractal that you were talking about. While I do think there's a lot of similarities for sure. I would say this consolidation again, another variation on the theme. What do we see here, guys? Came down, Bitcoin retested that multi-month high, failed to break, and then it equaled a big reversal. We did do a smaller version of that. We did come down. I would say what's most likely though is I think what we saw in December and January was probably what we saw in December and January of 2022. And I think we're probably here, if I had to guess. But again, anything's possible. So maybe we get one or two more drops. With that being said, I don't think this move is going to be as severe. As you can see, it went down 68 to 15. That's like a 80% move, guys. I don't think 80% we're going to get 80% here. 80% here would be, we go down to 30. I mean, I guess it's possible. I said 30 is possible. So, I mean, that would just be super severe. I think that would have to come with some type of recession or at least a very big correction on the S&P 500, which I think is possible, guys. Like we could see that, but I just don't think that's I mean, dude, the last two big corrections on the S&P did give us a 30% correction. So, if we got 30% correction on that, you could imagine what Bitcoin would do. Again, that's just not my base case. I do agree with you. I think we are looking a lot like the 2022 bear market, where it's very impulsive. You get a few consolidations, a little bit of a bounce. I mean, if you look here, dude, who asked that question? Soya. I would say 2022. It was a more like a bigger version, but look how freaking similar 2022 March 2022 looks to January or December of 2025. You bounced, barely broke the consolidation high, and came down hard. This is like a mini version of that, like almost exactly. And then I think what we're in right here could easily be that final like second to last or last drop. So I do agree with that premise though, for the most part. Yo, Jeremy, what's up, brother? How you doing? Watch Bitcoin on May to June 2022. Yeah. Yeah. It looks similar for sure, bro. I appreciate everybody showing love. I will do the USDC giveaway in about 30-45 minutes. 72K will fall, just patience. I think so too. Your stream Q&A helped me through this Bitcoin dip. I appreciate that. We can't break that low now, maybe later. We'll see. Um But yeah, past few days though, let's go and review some stuff that's going on. Uh, it is crazy. The White House is posting shit like this.
Wake up, Daddy's home.
Welcome home, son.
Strength and honor. Strength and honor.
What will you do without freedom?
Mavericks inbound.
You can't conceive of what I'm capable of.
Finishing this fight.
I'm thinking I'm back.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
I am the danger.
Time to find out.
Maximum effort.
Here it comes. Now end this.
Flawless victory.
Dude, that's crazy. 2026, you have the White House posting shit like this, like during the wars. It's nutty. I guess it's a sign of the times, but it's insane. 1 second. Cloudy Ledger says, do you think the Clarity Act will move the markets at all? Yeah, we'll look at that in a second. But, dude, it's got the Master Chief in there. I wonder who the editor is for this fucking thing. We got this from the Kobalesi letter. 1 second. Sorry, guys. But you have the Kobayashi letter saying Qatar says the Iran war could bring down the economies of the world and warns oil prices may see $150 within days as Gulf countries prepare to shut down production. Details include Qatar predicts that all Gulf energy exporters will shut down production within days. Even if the war ended immediately, it would take Qatar weeks to months to return to normal. Qatar predicts that the natural gas prices will rise 400%. Qatar says the war will delay all expansion plans. So, I mean, you see a lot of people talking about the U.S. could lose this war, and that sounds crazy. But I think it's just a huge something that's already happening and kind of punishing the American people almost, where the U.S. oil prices are going up. I showed you guys in the beginning of the show $8, almost $8 a gallon in L.A. I'd imagine if the U.S. oil price keeps going up, which is going to probably be a result of the war as it keeps going on, it's going to be pretty crazy. So, I think that's already hurting the American people. But yeah, it's insane. What else? Mario Nafal, who knows? This is his kind of take on it. He says, here's a clear explanation of why Trump attacked Iran and why I think the war will end soon. He essentially thinks it's about China. He thinks China imports 45% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has a capacity to shut it down. So I said essentially they're just trying to choke off China, and it's about a bigger China thing. And that's why he thinks it's going to end early. And I do think that's probably what's most likely to happen, guys. It's like they always say nothing ever happens, and a lot of shit has happened over the last few years. But I do think World War III is probably going to start on a whim from something we're not expecting. I don't think it's necessarily going to be this. I think World War III was probably contributing to that eventually, but I think what's most likely to happen is something like Mario is saying, where this does resolve, sooner than later. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, Iran did say this today. Iran rejects ceasefire negotiations. This is at 1:15. I assume it hasn't been updated. And it says ready for U.S. ground invasion. So I don't know. Let me know in the chat. What are you guys thinking? Let me know if you're in a part of the world where this is you're affecting you as far as, family members or any of that. If so, I pray, and I hope everybody's safe. But yeah, like I showed you guys earlier, $8 a gallon almost in LA. I'm in Southern California. It's not quite at 8, but yeah, it's pretty nuts.
For the Fox News alert, it's a business one. Moments ago, brand new job numbers revealed. The U.S. We're back with the Fox News alert. It's a business one. Moments ago, brand new job numbers revealed. The U.S. economy did not add jobs. They lost 92,000 jobs in February, a steep drop from expectations. Unemployment also ticked up slightly to 4.4%.
Yeah, so unemployment numbers came out today as well. Like I said, unemployment only ticked up 1.1%, but 92,000 jobs lost instead of an expected gain of 50,000. The unemployment continues to tick down. There's something called the SOM rule, which I don't know if you guys have heard, which is kind of predicted past recessions in with pretty good accuracy. With the jobs data, there are criticisms about the increase in unemployment, but labor-oriented indicators like the Claudia SOM rule still do not point to a downturn. A bad or weakening economy is not the same thing as a recession. So, essentially, the SOM rule um, is whenever these kind of moving averages for the unemployment rate cross, and that would have to be like 4.5% or something. So we're not quite there yet, but yeah, I mean, back in I remember writing about this when it triggered in 2023. Unemployment rarely creeps. Historically, it tends to compound once the momentum shifts. At 4.4%, we are actively testing the boundaries of the SOM rule. So we're right at that 4.4%, 4.5%. And usually when we do cross above that, the last 2008 and the recessions of the past, it's indicated and pushed us into that recession. So could we enter a quote unquote official recession in the market where we push down in Bitcoin and ETH and everything else for the next 3 to 6 to 9 months, and we see the bottom in late this year? I could see that for sure. But we'll have to see. Again, markets are usually forward looking. So let's just say we were to see a recession. Usually the markets, yeah, they may go down on the announcement of that, but they usually bottom out well before the actual recession is over, and oftentimes start to price it in before it even starts. So, yeah. Do you think the Clarity Act will move all the markets at all, or the new Fed Chairman Walsh? Do I think the Clarity Act is going to bottom out the market by itself? Very unlikely. I think what Bitcoin is being moved by right now and being driven by is the overall risk asset market. The S&P 500 came back down under this very, very crucial 3-month consolidation. I think that's what's triggering Bitcoin to come down. And I don't think the Clarity Act, which a lot of is already known. We already know what's in the Clarity Act. We might not know what the final version is going to be yet, but there's nothing that's going to come out of nowhere and shock the market. I think it produce like a temporary bounce, yes, but if the S&P 500 and the rest of the market is coming down hard, then I don't think it's going to matter. Now, is the Clarity Act is extremely bullish long term, and it's going to unlock a lot of capital, a bunch of new people joining into the markets or into crypto. But short term, is it going to form the bottom? Probably not. It seems that Barron is the dev and intern at the White House. Yeah. Means war will go on for a longer time. Trump's probably wants and would love a pardon in the midterm elections. USA interest chess game with China and control energy routes. Israel religious war, and they could be the ones they drag it out. Yeah, for sure. Saad says, you think we see 40K? It's possible, brother. Possible, but I don't know. We have to. Okay, I think it's possible, really, because the S&P 500 looks like it wants to take a 10 to 20% dip, and if that happens, I do think Bitcoin goes into the 50s. Could it go into the 40s? Sure. But it's anybody's guess, man. I do think we do move lower, but when you're in price discovery like that, kind of to the downside, it's anybody's guess how low it goes. I would love to buy a whole Bitcoin at fucking, a few Bitcoins or a whole Bitcoin at 40K. That'd be nice. Who thought we'd calculate 50 to 40K low when he was consolidating at 70? What is your entry on Bitcoin? Like my overall average entry? I don't know, man. I started buying some Bitcoin in 2016, 2017, but obviously been averaging up as I've been buying over the years. Shout out to everybody showing love to the stream though, and on the post. Um, yeah, let's see. What else? Um, let's see. Yeah, so odds of an April rate cut jumped to 17% after today's week jobs report as well. So rate cut again, quicker they're able to uh, cut rates with nothing blowing up and the market staying strong, the better. But yeah, faster they can cut rates with the market not being destroyed, nothing breaking, the better, and the quicker we get to start printing money. Would it be advisable to take a short now? Not financial advice. I can just tell you guys what I'm doing, right? And I took a short on Ethereum at about 2050 after I saw that we broke this low. I'll kind of tell you the setup. Um, really, the reason the biggest, if you were looking at the market here earlier, maybe 12 hours ago, and you're thinking, okay, could I potentially be looking for a short setup? The biggest thing is we broke just barely over this consolidation high, this multi-week consolidation. We barely broke above it and came back down. That we failed to break that with a red candle back down right here. Oops, I'm not sharing my screen. Right here, damn it. Right here, this is the consolidation, failed to break, came back down with a big red candle. Right here's the short setup for me. So that's why I took the short 2050. I am in profits now with that stop at break even. Very likely, like I showed you guys up here, once you break that consolidation high, fail to break, usually you form a fresh low. So if we continue to break down over the weekend, I think what I have here is probably not the most likely scenario. I think what's probably most likely is that Bitcoin continues down and probably breaks the low and gives us another fresh low at 50K. Um, this is ETH, obviously, but into the 15, 16, 1700s. So I think that's probably most likely at this point, just like we saw earlier this year. But if Bitcoin were to hesitate and stop near 1800, we could always see a low there and bounce. So that's how I'm playing it. I'm continuing to be short. And if we do break below that low there, I think we go a lot lower into the 50s and 60s or into the probably the mid to low 50s. Michael, why do you think it's a good idea to short here? So to answer your question about shorting here, again, it's a little later in the setup, but if you do believe what I'm saying, where most of the time it does fall down there, you could probably place a short, but maybe set the stops here at about 71K in case it does go back up there. I've just placed your gold short recommendation. Yeah, be careful, man. Again, it could rocket up, but I think it's a high probability one for me. What's the low we don't want Bitcoin to break? If you want Bitcoin to bounce, I mean, if your base case is that Bitcoin bounces from here and doesn't go low, it's the crucial low is at that 63K, multi-week 63K low at since February 5th. Um, so yeah, 63K low there. That's kind of the crucial one you're watching, just like the 81K low was here when we broke down down here. So that's the level to watch. But yeah, coming up on the hour here, I'll hang up for another like 10 minutes or so. We'll do that giveaway here in a second. But guys, right now, name of the game is Bitcoin is going to lead the entire market. It looks like a very similar setup to what we're getting in January of 26, where we came back down, broke that consolidation low, and made a fresh low. I think we are going to probably see a variation on that theme, or a very similar setup here. If we do break 63K, I do think it leads into 50s, mid 50s, low 50s, and a fresh low into whatever. And at that point, you're probably going to see the Iran war escalate it temporarily. A lot of talks about job reports, oil. I think it's kind of the perfect storm for a nice leg down here across risk assets. But again, I think somebody pointed out earlier that he thought that we're at, I think it was Soma pointed out that he thinks that we're at, March of 2022. I think that March of 2022 is probably what we saw in December, or what we saw in December and January. And we're probably here like we were in May of 2022, where we get one or two more drops before the final bottom, and then start the bull run again. So if we do get that low, do not fear. Again, I think the quicker we get into the 50s, 40s, 30s, wherever we're going to land, the higher chance that we see a bear market end in the summer or maybe the fall versus the winter, the end of the year. So just a necessary evil or a necessary part of the markets. Got to just let these corrections play out, no matter how boring and annoying it is at times. Your stop loss on the Bitcoin is 71K for a short. Yes, if I was entering right now, right? Like I told you, my short technically would have been here, probably something like here. So I would have been in at 71K. So yeah, I would probably set your stop at maybe 75, 70.5, 71. I think that's because if it goes back up there, it's very likely going to retest this high. So I would be out at 70, 71. And again, it's not as a strong or a good risk management as if you were to short up here. But I think it's still pretty solid. I still think there's a pretty good chance you get a move down. Do you think we go back up by the end of the year? I think that the bottom will be put in by the end of the year, but I don't necessarily know or think if the top is going to be breached by the end of the year. Like I could see us bottoming out in, June, July, August, September, but then probably not seeing all-time highs till 2027 sometime, like early 2027. But anything's possible. Maybe we drop the 30s, 40s right now, bottom out, and hit new all-time highs in October, November. I mean, anything's possible. Do you think rising oil prices delay rate cuts? No, I think it's a good question, right? Because obviously that's inflation going up and they don't want to cut rates with inflation going up. But I don't know. I tend to think and kind of agree with Mario, like I showed you guys there, that markets probably do they probably do end the war sooner than later, and oil prices probably do top out. I mean, kind of some levels to watch for oil, I guess, would be, I mean, dude, it's approaching all-time highs kind of, so I don't know. This is a really nice correction it's coming out of too, not gonna lie. Really nice kind of tight coil up on the higher time frame since 2022. And it's breaking this, like, geez, dude, if it doesn't come back down soon, it's gonna get close to 100, which is nuts. Hasn't been there since January 2022. And when this happened too, guys, inflation was going nuts. I don't know. That's when they started stepping in. So I mean, you have a good point, right? That's when they started raising rates, is when oil started popping. So it's kind of hard to cut rates when, damn, the Fed's just kind of in a interesting place here, aren't they? But if you guys could please like, comment, retweet, share so we can get this out to more people, then that would be much appreciated. The algo is crazy. I'm seeing some of these. Oh wow. I'm seeing some of these. I'm seeing some. I don't know. The algo is just interesting nowadays, especially for streams. I feel like live was getting pushed out way more on the timeline, but either way, it's always appreciated you guys hanging out with me here during these times. I know it's not. That's funny. Ben Stiller says, "Please remove the Tropic Thunder clip. We never gave you permission. I have no interest in being part of your propaganda machine." But yeah, I know during these times, like when crypto's going down, it's like, why why do you want to consume crypto content? People just want to check out and all that, and it's totally understandable. But like I said, I appreciate everybody for sticking on here, continuing to learn. Like I said, 24 and 25 were a great time for us on the streams here, learning. We caught so many great plays together, so many different 10x's, 15x's, all this different stuff. So I know, no doubt, when the market does turn around, we're going to do that even better. So I appreciate everybody who's stuck around and yeah, and is hanging out here with me throughout this time. Can you look at the troll chart? Yeah, I'll look at that for you real quick. All right. So troll chart, I actually been holding nicely here. I do expect it to move down during. I do expect it to move. Thank you. I do expect it to move down here with everything else. Maybe make one more fresh low. 10 million low is crazy, seeing that I was at 300. But I do think there's going to be a select few movement coins, the SPX Gigas Mogs, ticker Bitcoins probably, Pengu, Rect, some of these other coins are going to survive. I think most of the coins will probably die just like anything else. But I think there's going to be a select few movement coins that survive. And I think Troll is very likely one of those. So I know it's tough, down 96, 97%, but I mean, we saw ETH down 98% in 2016. Obviously, Troll is not ETH, but I'm just saying some of the biggest assets in the world that end up being very, very successful years later have gone through 95+% correction. So I would just say don't completely count it out. And if you're a believer in Troll and everything, then probably a good time to start buying. How do you think this war would escalate? How? Yeah, again, I'm not the person to ask that. I've been watching stuff, but I'm not like, you know, I couldn't give you a crazy opinion on when, how far do you think I will escalate? I hope it doesn't get to a nuclear war. Love your streams, brother. Realist one. Appreciate your insights. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. Your stop loss on Bitcoin short is 71K. Again, yeah. If I were to place one here, yes. What are your thoughts on Wojak? Wojak, same kind of thing. I think it has a shot to bounce back when the market does run as well. It's unfortunate that the market's down because it's a good coin too. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that, bro. All right. No fucking surrender, says J Dubes. But yeah, thank you guys for all the love on the stream and the comments on here. I'm gonna go ahead and pick one time a giveaway winner. Let me see here. I'm gonna share the stream instead. All right. The winner of the USDC giveaway is fuck. Actually clicked out. Boom boom. Fuck, I keep losing it. Shit. The winner is. I'll make sure I didn't give you one yet. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Winner is Soul Reaper. I appreciate you, brother. You've shown a lot of support on the streams over the last several months, so I'm glad you won. Definitely shoot me a DM after the stream, and I'll get that to you. But yeah, I hope everybody has a great rest of your Friday. Again, Bitcoin, whether it makes a new low or not, the best is yet to come. I think the quicker we get done with these corrections, the quicker the stock market rolls over, the quicker they cut rates, the quicker they get closer to printing money, the war ends, all that. I think a lot of that lines up for the end of the year. So I'm excited. And again, appreciate everybody for hopping on. I'll be back here on Tuesday, I think, with a guest. I'm going to go ahead and announce that here in the next few days, but appreciate it. If you guys could like, comment, retweet, share. I'll be back on Tuesday with another one. Obviously keep an eye on Bitcoin. Don't do anything too crazy. I do think we go down, but there could be anything that happened with this Iran war that could produce a temporary bounce or a reversal or whatever. So please be safe out there. Right now, I think the name of the game for everybody should be to conserve capital and to deploy it into only the most high conviction assets. There will be a time to trade and buy the other stuff. But right now, there's just golden opportunities in Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, some of these movement coins, alts, to where you don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to be trying to catch a home run every day on the low cap meme coins. just relax, absorb as much information, and learn as much as you can, and just enjoy your time. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and I will see you on Tuesday. Peace.